Hi everyone, this is Sharon. Today I am here to share with you my latest design team project for Raindrop Lila. I'm excited to share this one with you because I love the way it turned out. It's a tall, skinny journal, and I haven't made one of those in a while. If we look at the front, I added this little piece. It's an optometrist lens, a vintage one that I purchased, and I just added this little tree image to the back side of it, and then on the other side there's a picture of a thistle. This is a vintagey, kind of a little bit grungy nature style journal, and for the tie I combined both silk and this twine, and I think that really reflects the style of the journal because there's a lot of pretty kind of feminine touches to it, but there's also a lot of grunge and naturey kinds of things in here as well. So I am going to remove the ribbon. I've also tied it up with this lacy crocheted doily. I just think that adds a lot of prettiness to the front of the cover. And then I made this cover from an antique ledger, and this was really tall and skinny. I had to cut about 1.5 inches off the height, and the width it was only about maybe three and a half inches. I didn't want it any taller than this because it was just seemed out of proportion, so I did cut it down, and now it is, I think, let's see, 10 3/4, and then the full width is about 4 3/8. I added to the width of this because I had to create a new spine. I just had the front and back pieces of this ledger book. And for the spine, I actually took a cue from Donna at Twisted Paper Studio. She was making something similar, and she used a file folder for the kind of the construction of her spine on one of her journals. And I thought, oh, that's perfect. So that's what I did, and I just scored it along the score lines, and that creates a nice kind of rounded spine. And then I covered the spine with this beautiful tapestry fabric that I got from Rachel at Roxy Creations. I purchased a fabric bundle, and some of the items in there were vintage and some were really old antique fabrics as well. And I'm not sure if this is a really old antique one or a vintage one, but either way, it's really pretty. I did some exposed stitching for my signatures, and so that shows on the spine as well. And then what I did was I glued my front and back cover to this piece, and then I also did some stitching along there too, just to reinforce it so everything stays together nicely. I kept the covers just as they were, except on the front here I added this pretty floral piece on there. And hopefully I want it to stay as close as possible, but it's pretty tall, so I'm going to try to keep this in frame for you. The inside covers I did not alter because they have some beautiful things on them. This old label and some handwriting, a date that says May 13th, 1879. So I just wanted to leave that, so I added this plain, pretty linen, nubby linen fabric for my spine. For the digitals that I used in this particular journal, I used primarily 3 main kits of Lydia's. The pages, a lot of the pages are from the Tall Vintage Journal Layout kit, as well as from that same Tall Vintage kit, I also did the ephemera as well. And then I used quite a number of images from her Autumn Breeze kit, as well as her William Morris wallpapers. So I will put a link to all of those specific kits down below, as well as to Lydia's shop. I also wanted to let you know that this journal is for sale, and I will have that listed in my Etsy shop as well. So here's the first page. I love the colors in this this journal. There's kind of blues, deep blues and aquas and greens, a lot of golds and kind of wheat colors. Like I said, it's a nature themed, not so much necessarily just botanicals, but very country-ish with wheat fields and little animals and mushrooms and things like that. On here, I added this ruffle with this antique cotton fabric. On this page, I created a top tuck, and then in there, I tucked this little journaling piece, and I just did some stenciling on the back, and this is from one of her kits as well, and then a piece of writing paper. This page is one of the original pages in the ledger book that I used, and you'll see some dates on some of these. I used several in here. This one has 1879 on there. Here I created a pocket and added some fabric and some cheesecloth and a button. And then in there I tucked this journaling card and just added a little lace on the top. I shouldn't say journaling card, it's a tag. I interchange those all the time. And then I added some coffee dyed paper on the back and a label. For one of the pages, I added this piece of antique French fabric. And then this page is from an old cookbook that I have. And on there, I clipped this original photo of this lady. On this page, I just love this tapestry fabric image. It's from the Tall Vintage Journal Kit. And then I added this old piece of lace and a button on there for the belly band. And then I just kind of gathered it up on this end a little bit, so it kind of looks like a belt or something. And then in there, I tucked this little piece. I've got this tag that I used. And then this is a piece of antique ephemera. It looks like something that originated in the 1800s, but then it was reprinted or copied, and there's like an little embossing on here that says copy. So I don't know when it was recopied, but it's an interesting piece, and it's a pretty blue. On this page, I did some stenciling with paste on the top and the bottom. And then I added this little, it's like a Denison label almost, but it's for hanging pictures. It's a vintage one, and I just did a little stamping on there, and it works really nice for hanging a little dangle off of it. So I've got some offcuts of lace and some botanical images from some of the papers that I used in this journal. On this side, you'll see in here, I've kind of set this up a little bit like one of those document journals that a lot of people are making. So I used a lot of lace and fabric pockets in here. And then in there, I've got this pretty journaling card. And I just added a little bit of embossed paper on the side to create a side tuck, and tucked a little bit of paper in there. I've also used some antique French newspaper to back it. And then here's a card that I made, or a tag. In this little side tuck, I put in this antique invoice from 1911. Left a certain amount of, I like these tall, narrow journals because they've got a lot of nice writing room on a blank page like that. And then over here in this pocket, again, this is the other side of that ledger sheet, and I just did a little collaging on the bottom. And in there, I've got this little sort of envelope from some straw paper. I did a little bit of collaging on it on the front and the back, and then I've got this little wrap from some old book page. And then inside there, I tucked some fun things that can be used elsewhere. Just some papers that I used. On this page, I did a little collaging, added some washi to reinforce the page. And then I've got this side flip of this lace piece on here. I love this image of this girl. She looks sad or dreamy, one or the other. She's not here though, I can tell. And then at the bottom, I added this pocket, and then you could put something in there. And then here I added this. It's a book page from a French embroidery book. And then here I've got another fabric pocket. I did a little bit of machine stitching on the bottom just to embellish it a bit. And then in there I've got this little strip of this guy all dressed up. This is an original. And then a book page from a, looks like a either moth or butterfly book. I'm going to say moth. And then here's the page. Here I made a side tuck with this wallpaper image, and then this is what the pages look like. This is one of her printables, and this is some original onion skin paper from the early 1900s. I've got a couple pages of those in here. And then in that pocket or side tuck, I've got this antique postcard from Syracuse. And I took some of, Lydia's got a kit with these invoices, the antique invoices, and I just put those on vellum and cinched those together with a brad at the top. Here I've got a lace belly band. This is what the page looks like behind there. And then in there I printed this William Morris wallpaper image on, and then I also did some stenciling on the back, and that can be used for writing. And I put it on this locked up paper, which is it feels very much like it is a handmade paper. Here on this page, I just added a little cluster at the top with some book spine pieces, lace, and fabric. And then this is a page from a vintage floral catalog. So you can see it's got some roses on there, and on this side, a nice rose image. And I just created a couple of pockets and embellished those with this William Morris wallpaper, some stamping, and then in there I've got this card. And I created a side tuck on there, and then in there, again, I just have some sheets of paper that can be used for writing, some ledger paper. I backed those with some coffee dyed paper, and this is actually a postcard image on the back of that one. This page I've got, this is an envelope from one of Lydia's kits. I just love the pattern on there. And I tied it up with some string, and then inside I've added a couple of images, and I backed those again with some of that French. This one is some of that French newspaper, and this is just an old French book page on that one. And then I also lined the inside of the envelope with an old book page as well. In this pocket, another pretty rose image from that catalog page. And in there, I took a piece of vintage wallpaper and I added this pretty landscape image to it, did some stenciling on the top of that. And that can be used for writing. And then I also have an old book page in here. Oops. And this side tuck, I got another antique book page, French book page, and then I have this journaling card that I made, the pretty birds. Added a vintage label on there, did some punching along the side. The back of this is from, I think it's actually an old book cover. It's like a cardstock, but I love the color of it. Here I created a pocket on this page. It's got a beautiful image on the back. And then in there, I've got this antique letter, French letter from, let's see if I can tell what it is. Is it 1860? No, 1856. It's an original, and I will let the owner discover that instead of opening it up. And then I've also got just an old book page tucked in there as well. I like to tuck those in here and there. People can use them for collage or writing or however they want to use them in their journals. Here is another pretty page, and then on the top I just added this piece of linen with some crochet trim on there. And then I brought that piece up and over the page, and then on this side I've got a wax seal. And then over here I've got a page that's from an old French notebook, and I just created a little pocket on the bottom here and did a little bit of like a few French knots on there. Just a small cute little pocket, and then in there I tucked this journaling piece, and then this is another printable of butterflies, and then I did some stenciling on the back, but that can still be used for writing. Okay, so this page, I actually did a flip out. So I stitched this French book page onto another piece of antique book page and just extended it and created a flip out. And then on this side, I've got a pocket, and in there, I've got this journaling card with the cute little squirrels on it. Did a little stamping on the bottom, and then there's room to write on the back. This is one of the printables. I just did a little stamping on the top of that corner. On this page, I love this page, I took an old vintage envelope. It's got this, I love these envelopes. I got a few of them, but they have these oval windows on them, and they're kind of an amber color. I just think it's so pretty. And then I put this lady behind there. And then I use that as a corner tuck, and in there, I put this tag that I made, a very long, narrow tag with a pretty image from one of Lydia's kits, and I just did a little bit of machine stitching on there. And then on the back, I created a little pocket and added a little piece of ephemera in there. And then on this ledger sheet, I did some stamping on the top and just a little bit of layering on the bottom. Some fabric and paper. In this pocket, I added this little label, and then I created this little booklet and just used some fabric tabs. I love these mushroom images, and I just added a tab on this side, and then that opens. I've added some writing room in there. This is the back image. I just absolutely love this page. The colors in it are so pretty. And up in the corner, I just added a piece of embossed cardstock. And that creates a corner tuck, so you could stick something underneath there. This beautiful forest image. In the center of the signature, I created two pockets at the bottom from one of the William Morris, or they're not William Morris, but they're from another wallpaper kit that she has. And in those pockets, I've got some antique ephemera, an old French book page, some old German music sheet. And then I also added two tags to the front. And they have these beautiful images on there. And I just put little trees on the bottom. I just love the way this red velvet ribbon goes with this kind of aqua-y color. And on the back, I've got this striped paper. In this pocket, I've got, this is what that ledger sheet looks like. I've got a little bit of embellishing on the pocket. And then in there, I've got this image of this lady. I love her. And then an old library book checkout sheet, and this journaling card. Some room to write on the back. And then here I've got a side tuck that I stitched on, and in there just tucked some antique ephemera pieces, not antique but vintage. So we've got this official premium life insurance receipt from 1947, and then another receipt from 1943. And then this is an old French book page. And then on this side, I added this pocket on the bottom with this lady and her boat. Love that image too. These are all, a lot of the lady images, if not all of them, are from Lydia. And I made this little journaling card. And then I also tucked in this vintage piece from 1930. And then on this last page, I again have a lace pocket. And then this is what the page looks like. I love this image of the lady carrying the grain. I don't know if it's wheat or flowers or what it is. And then in this tag, I've got a little shallow pocket on the bottom, and I tucked in this antique calling card. And again, this is, I believe, from the wallpaper kit, and I just love that image. And I just added this little laundry label on the top, a silk ribbon for the tab on the top, and then on the back I added some parchment paper and just embellished the bottom a little bit. And this is the back cover, inside cover. There's some writing on it. It's upside down. I'm thinking what they did was they started on this side of the ledger and then turned it around and started writing on this side of the ledger, and that's why the writing's this way. But I just left it as is. And then I added this picture of this lady. I just imagined she might be the owner of this journal. And that is it. So I hope you enjoyed that flip through. I really enjoyed working with Lydia's kits and hope to make a lot of projects again in the future. I will be doing maybe about one a month for her. Not always a journal, perhaps other items like ephemera and things like that. So thank you very much for coming along with me today. And until next time, bye-bye.